It never occurred to the contemporaries of Genghis Khan to build temples that reached to the heavens, to compete with the majesty of nature. They simply worshipped mountain peaks, lakes, and healing springs. Only when the river runs backwards and the grass turns to sand, cursed the ancients. In the diplomatic language of that distant time, there was no stronger metaphor, because they knew the paths of rivers and the order of all things were preordained in the heavens. The Amur. This great river bears its waters 4,500 kilometers to the Pacific Ocean. The source of the Amur is generally considered to be the place where the Shilka and Argun merge. But the Shilka and Argun must also have a source. Mount Sochondo. Here, in this harsh and unwelcoming scree, lies the divide between the two largest river systems of northern Asia. Every drop of melted ice water in these high peaks can make its choice. It can course to the Shikhoi, or Selengu, flow through the incomparable Baikal on its way to the Arctic Circle, the realm of the polar bear, the Arctic Ocean. Or it could flow to the tributaries of the Anon, through the Shilka to the mighty Amur, where reigns the Amur tiger, and see the Pacific. This drop chose the course to the kingdom of the tiger. In the first stage of this journey, it will become acquainted with Lake Bukunun. These are the dog days of summer, but here the ice remains. Only here and there along the banks can flowing water be found. In these inlets, hemmed in by great boulders, the water roils with life. Here congregate innumerable schools of lienki, or Asian trout, 3 kilograms in size. These fish are one of the riddles of Sochondo. How did they get here? After all, the source of the river is isolated from the lake by boulder fields. The waters trickle through the talus, and only after half a kilometer does the flow resemble that of a stream. We can hear how the Bukunun works its way amongst the rocks without ever being visible on the surface. Perhaps in the past the river flowed directly from the lake, but was cut off by a landslide. Or perhaps the lienki were deposited in the lake during an unprecedented surge in stream level. Who knows? In any case, in other lakes of Sochondo there are no lienki. The superstitious Tungus worship this mountain as the residence of an angry deity who, in their opinion, every day emits mists, clouds, and raging winds so that no one can approach him, wrote the renowned traveler Pyotr Pallas 2 centuries ago. Today, the government has come to the aid of this wrathful deity. This continental divide between two great oceans, comprising a giant accumulator of clean water, has the status of a government wilderness reserve. Mount Alkhanai. In northern Buddhism, it holds the place as the 5th holiest shrine. It is the residence of the deity Demchog, which in translation from Tibetan means eternal blessing. Legend holds that on the summit of Alkhanai stood the sentries of Genghis Khan's horde. Here are concentrated 12 global shrines, the most revered of which is Den Sume, the temple gates. This is a natural arc in the cliffs, which, as the Lamas claim, forms a channel connecting our world with Shambhala. It is also believed that the temple gates are connected by invisible, supernatural threads to another global shrine, the island of Alkhon on Lake Baikal. The unique natural wonder of Alkhanai is suffused with positive energy, and its healing springs help all sufferers, regardless of faith. This place was considered sacred by the residents of Trans-Baikal for many thousands of years before they accepted Buddhism, and today it is the site of pilgrimage for followers of Buddha from around the world. At the end of the 90s, a national park was established on sacred Mount Al-Khanai and its surrounding territories. Since that time, not only the heavens, but also the state protects these silver springs of pure healing water, which are destined for the Pacific Ocean. But in order to reach the Amur, the sacred currents of the Sakhandol and Al-Khanai must merge with the waters of the Anon, and the Anon must also find its source somewhere. For many, Mongolia is associated with endless steppes and the Gobi Desert. But on the border with Russia, especially in the protected territories of Anon Balj and Gente, we also can find magnificent forests. According to legend, in this place was born the boy whom the very heavens protected. These forests hid the young Temujin from his numerous and bloodthirsty foes. From here he began the unification of the disparate nomadic tribes. And here he was proclaimed Genghis Khan. Today, fires blaze in the forests of Mongolia. Malicious rumors claim that these fires spread from neighboring Russia, where many large fires go unfought. True or not, we know that the forest is retreating before fire and steppe. As in the past, livestock grazing remains the main occupation here. On the list of countries by livestock per capita, Mongolia is near the top. For every resident, including children, there are 1.5 cows, 6 sheep, 1 horse, and 2 goats. And here, as in the past, the cult of the horse reigns. It would seem that Mongolians are born in these harsh saddles, to which no European can acclimate. These are no Arab stallions, but their hooves once shaped the history of Europe and Asia. Fences are a new feature in the Mongolian landscape. In the recent past, the citizens of this country gained the right to hold as private property not only domestic animals, but also plots of land. However, fences surrounding private land remain uncommon here. This is not a matter of the psychology of the nomad shepherd. The fact is that livestock husbandry is directly linked to the quality of pasture, which is directly linked to the presence of water. Problems with water are everywhere to be found in modern Mongolia. Here no one doubts the reality of global climate change. In the steppe reigns a drought of unprecedented proportions. In these conditions, fire-ravaged forests no longer act as reservoirs of moisture. Rivers subside. Lakes, large and small, on which nomadic herding depended, irreversibly dry out. The steppe, which to begin with never yielded an easy bounty, inexorably transforms to desert. And these ecological stressors are paired with economic, the collapse in prices for Mongolian cashmere, stricter sanitary requirements for Mongolian meat exports. Add the looming shortage of water and forage, and the very basis of the Mongolian economy is at risk. The most striking indicator of this crisis is the behavior of the dzeren, or Mongolian gazelle. In recent years, hunger and drought have made their way to this species' traditional calving grounds, and so desperate herds of dzeren, numbering in the thousands, migrate in search of greener pastures. But where to? To Russia, to the protected Daurian steppe, to the Toreysky Lakes, the largest intact reservoir of fresh water in the northern steppe zone. There, where not long ago ruled the crane, the steppe cat, and the camel, now reigns the dzeren. The scale of this migration is so great that the Border Service has had to open special passages in the border fences. WWF allocates resources to save these migrants. These wandering herds can number up to 100,000 head, and many will stay here in the Daurian steppe for good. The local camels, with some incredulity, gaze on these nimble new neighbors in the steppe. The steppe cat Manul must also adapt to this new balance of power. And for these fox cubs, great herds of Zeren will already seem a natural part of their surroundings. Only here, there is already no water. It's a salty mirage. One of the largest lakes of Dauria, Barun Torre, which in depth exceeded 5 meters and in area 550 square kilometers, is today completely dry. Its brother, Zuntore, still holds on. But its sources have gone dry, the fish have died, and the lake has retreated far from its historic shores. From a distance, Lake Barun Torre resembles the sea, its boundaries not visible, its waters a milky blue, its shores strewn with flotsam, wrote the renowned biologist Felix Stielmark. The shores of the lake are crowded with gulls, herons, cormorants, ducks, and at dusk from the lake unbroken flocks of migrating geese depart for the steppe. On its rocky islands are found great colonies of birds. One of Torre's main attractions, colonies of relictual gulls. Who today would believe that this wonderful description was written here, on these lifeless salt flats? But on this thirsty transboundary plain, at the sources of the Amur, there is still one more resident. His population in all of Transbaikal, just over 1 million. In all of Mongolia, 2.5 million. And according to the data of the Chinese State Agency for Flood and Drought Management, nearly 12 million people are affected by shortages of drinking water in this border region. But there is still one gigantic reservoir of water in this steppe, Lake Dalai Nor. Once it was fed by 2 rivers, from Mongolia, Kerulen, and from China, Hailur. But now, at the whim of natural processes, the Hailur River has abandoned the lake, shifted its channel, and now carries its waters directly to the north. But here, in the service of 12 million afflicted Chinese citizens, and for the restoration of 4.5 million hectares of farmland racked by drought, a canal has been dug to forcibly divert 2/3 of the Hailur River's flow back into Lake Dalai Nor. It is fully possible that this project is resolving the Chinese drought crisis, bringing relief to its citizens and reviving agriculture. But the Hailur River bears another name, a Russian name, Argun. On Russian territory it joins the Shilha River to feed the mighty Amur. The floodplain of the Hailur Argun Basin is the last large wetland complex to survive the regional drought. And thus it plays a critical role in the survival of not only hundreds of thousands of waterfowl and migratory birds, but also the survival of local people. Specialists have long lobbied for the creation of a special protected area on this territory. To resolve a similar drought crisis, the government of Mongolia is proposing to redirect part of the flow of the Anon River to the Gobi Desert and steppe zone. It is fully possible that this project really will resolve Mongolia's drought crisis, relieve the suffering of Mongolian citizens, and revive cattle herding. It is only that the Anon is one of the main rivers feeding the Shilka, which, together with the Argun, gives rise to the mighty Amur. And, in bitter irony, in Mongolia still one more plan is being discussed, to divert for irrigation another great artery, the Kerulen. Quite possibly, this is a good plan. It is only that the Kerulen is the second river feeding the Chinese lake Dalai Nor. It seems that if the plans of neighboring Mongolia are realized, all of China's efforts to revive Lake Dalai Nor through the redirection of the Hailur Argun River will be for naught. In this Gordian's knot of conflicting decisions, each nation can justify any effort to ease the suffering of its own. Only what will the future hold for the Dzeren, which has already wandered so far from its ancestral home? What awaits the crane, which finds its last refuge in the swamps of the Argun? What awaits the residents of the Amur in its lower reaches, who cannot but fathom how its sources are being transformed? The great Amur River, which carries its waters nearly 5,000 kilometers to the sea. Almost 5,000 kilometers claimed by 3 stubborn and incommunicative neighbors. This river's great misfortune is to reside so far from Ulaanbaatar, much farther still from Beijing, and unimaginably far from Moscow. It would never occur to those who today decide the Amur's fate to worship mountain peaks, lakes, and healing springs. They prefer to build their own temples, competing with the majesty of nature, and in these great shrines they ponder not the heavens, but the mysterious modern rites of geopolitics. But in these times we are wasting the last days allotted us by the heavens to gather these conflicting sides and take responsibility for the Amur's fate. Because the rivers are already running backwards, and the grass has turned to sand.